Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Tonight I want to talk to you about four subjects: the latest developments that are happening in Gaza, the statements that are coming from Iran and their coordination with Yemen against any potential threat coming soon, and finally I wanted to talk to you about the proposal that's coming from the Israeli foreign minister to Lebanon. We're going to start off with Gaza. So Israel is, of course, continuing its genocide inside of the Gaza Strip with barbaric massacres against the innocent population inside of Gaza. Every single day, dozens of people are slaughtered by this barbaric machine without the outrage necessary to take action against this entity, neither from the Arab states nor from international countries. Now, there are, of course, certain countries standing up against Israel and participating, and there are geopolitical changes happening in the region that indicate that we're looking towards a different future. But the people are still suffering. And Israel and what it's conducting inside of the Gaza Strip is showing that it's not conducting anything against the armed resistance in Gaza with its recent genocidal campaign. They are conducting massacres against civilians. They are targeting heavily populated areas in the south, in the center, and in the north, and any ground invasion is in those areas. Now, recently, they made an order for civilians inside of the Gaza Strip to evacuate from certain positions. And there was a statement coming from the spokesperson of Al-Qassam Brigades, Abu Ubaidah, saying half of the enemy's living prisoners are in areas that have been requested to be evacuated. What does he mean by that? And is that a threat? And is Israel going to continue to strike these areas despite the presence of Israeli prisoners of war in those areas? Israeli terrorists from the IDF, by the way, those who are remaining now in Gaza are IDF terrorists taken as prisoners of war on the 7th of October. Well, Israel always kills its prisoners of war. They killed over a third. As a matter of fact, Benjamin Netanyahu would wish all of them were dead from the beginning so that the Palestinian resistance cannot use them as leverage. Also, if you notice, most of the recent escalation began after that incident when Hamas released an Israeli prisoner of war who kissed two Palestinian resistance fighters on their forehead. Go and explain that. Israel had a really tough time explaining that to the people. They wish they hadn't saw it. And of course, psychological warfare, Stockholm syndrome, as if Stockholm syndrome is only restricted to the Palestinians, to the Israelis, excuse me, inside of the Gaza Strip. But the Palestinians, they never show any sort of acts of kindness against the Zionists in their prisons. But things started to deteriorate from that time, and Benjamin Netanyahu and his government have a very big problem. As a matter of fact, a big chunk of the Israeli population have a problem with the prisoners of war in Gaza and their families, by the way. They constantly say that they operate for Hamas because they apply pressure on the government, and they are a fifth column inside the state. Lots of problems. But now, Abu Ubaidah, well, he's throwing the ball again in Israel's court, and he knows that the Israeli families of the prisoners of war are going to be listening. Told them, listen, these places you wanted to evacuate, they have your prisoners there. And you have two options. Either negotiate with us for a safe passage out for them, in Gaza, of course, or negotiate a deal. We recommend that you reach a deal very quickly. Start talking immediately. And now, you have no excuse. We told you, we informed you. They're there. We're going to be securing them. Very high, strong conditions, very secure conditions. But it's your responsibility now because you told the people to evacuate. as if Israel cares, by evacuate. They slaughter people deliberately. But, they tell people evacuate, to save some face, some of that ugly face. But yeah, now it's problematic. In Israel, these statements, they cause sensitivities, primarily with the prisoners of war's families. They're the families of the prisoners of war who say that, Benjamin Netanyahu, or do you want to kill them? They've been blaming Netanyahu for killing them from the beginning, and now it's increasing the tensions even more. It's not de-escalating with the families inside of Israel, and more people are speaking up. As a matter of fact, now some Israeli newspapers will talk about the death toll in Gaza. I mean, primarily Haaretz, some others too. But they're talking about the daily death toll in Gaza. That was something that was previously as if, it didn't exist, killing people left, right, and center as if it was nothing. But now more people are talking about it. Israel's still suffering. No reservists interested in joining the army of genocide in the Gaza Strip. And Benjamin Netanyahu has his own plans. And these plans are a continuation of the genocide, more attacks against the population, hoping that the forced displacement will work somehow. Now, there are elements within the Palestinian society who are, either knowingly or unknowingly working with that too, as if, opportunities and what have you. Now, of course, with the population of Gaza, no one has a right to tell these people what to do, by the way. Of course, people want to stay or leave. But one thing's for sure, what we have seen so far is unbelievable keenness of these people to remain in their lands, because they know their enemy. They know exactly who they're dealing with. But Israel is very keen on this psychological warfare campaign, not only against the Palestinian population in Gaza, but against the whole world. All of their acts, as if we're winning, as if we're going to dictate what's happening. And people need to remember something here. In 1948, the Palestinians were much weaker. The Palestinians were more ignorant. The Palestinians were fooled more easily. 76 years down the line, when the elders of Zion at the time used to say that, oh, the elderly Palestinians will die and the younger ones will forget. Well, the elderly died and the young ones became even fiercer in their resistance, in their keenness. And guess what? Now Israel created a global resistance against it and against anyone who supports it. That is the reality today. But Israel is very concerned and very worried about this reality. So they want to twist it in any way, shape, or form. And their preferred method is killing infants. This is what they do. This is what they excel at, killing infants, fetuses, women, pregnant women, children. This is what they do in the Gaza Strip. And it's still going. But the problem is for Israel that there's a global awakening that will not stop until it sees their demise. Moving on to the second subject that I want to talk to you about. Yemen and Iran are two countries that the United States and Israel have been talking about so much. And recently, there were talks between them. And these talks, well, there was an article spoke about it in the Tasnim news agency with a very nice photo here of the IRGC wearing shoes with Israel's flag at the bottom of their shoes. I mean, yeah, a relevant place for that flag to be in. Saying that the resistance front will exterminate the Zionist regime. That's from the IRGC. And then I'll get to the coordination with Yemen. The leading figure in the IRGC, one of the leading figures in the IRGC, was saying that they made a statement, actually, the IRGC themselves, on the day of commemoration of the assassination of the Iranian commanders or Iranian personnel in Syria over a year ago, saying that the Zionist regime and the United States seditions in the region could not hinder the occupying regime's speedy movement towards downfall and extinction. It hailed the anti-arrogance and anti-Zionism resistance as an undeniable fact that will lead to the ultimate victory. The resistance front, particularly the courageous and honorable Palestinian combatants who now benefit from the supporting nations across the globe, including in Europe and the Americas, will ultimately put an end to the inglorious existence of the occupiers of Palestine, they said, and that the liberation of Al-Aqsa Mosque, the first Qibla of the Muslims, will eventually grab the headlines of the world. IRGC are very confident. But the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about is their coordination with Yemen, their coordination with Ansarullah. The United States and Israel have been talking a lot about this, these ties between Iran and Yemen. Iran has constantly been saying that the Yemen, they have a level of independence. But Donald Trump is not convinced, and he's been warning Iran, saying that Iran will be held responsible for every shot fired by Ansarullah. And he is proving himself to be a bigger warmonger than even Joe Biden, with the level of terror attacks that he is conducting inside of Yemen against innocent civilians and civilian infrastructure. And they're, of course, all guns blazing now against Iran, threatening with the Carl Vinson strike group headed towards the region, more reinforcement, mutual threats between them and Iran. But now Iran and Yemen are actually talking, saying, no, we are here together to deal with mutual threats. And this move from Iran, by the way, is a calculated move. And it's intended to show that they are not hiding the fact that they have a relation with Yemen. Yes, they do repeat that Yemen have their own independence in their actions against the genocide state and the genocide coalition, trying to stop them from actually imposing an embargo on a war criminal entity, unlike European countries who declare their withdrawal from the ICC to host Benjamin Netanyahu, like Hungary and Belgium. And of course, before all of them, the United States, where Benjamin Netanyahu was pampered by none other than Donald Trump himself, moving his seat for him. We were only missing Donald Trump, holding a spoon and feeding Benjamin Netanyahu some bloody milk or something. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what these people drink, blood powder. So, yeah, Yemen and Iran are clear in their talks now. And this is showing that they are actually preparing and feeling that a strike can actually come. I mean, Donald Trump, he's insane. He's insane, just like Benjamin Netanyahu. And this man, with these constant attacks against Yemen, is proving that he has the capacity to come up with a very stupid move. It reached a stage where, Russia and China are telling him, and warning from any potential escalation. But he's stupid. He's insane. He can do that. Again, contrary to all of the things that he said before, he's getting people telling them, I'm the man of peace and vote for me. And I'm not sure how to describe these people who went and voted for him. People who voted for him and any other leader globally, by the way, who supports this genocide in Gaza, these people have blood on their hands. People need to know that very well. And I don't know how they can live with themselves. People who voted for these leaders who legitimize and support and back a genocide. How can you live with yourself? Really, I don't envy you. I really don't envy you. And this man is proving to be a barbaric warmonger, threatening Iran and threatening Yemen. Two countries bravely standing up against a genocidal entity, not only with by words, but by action too. We have countries by words, we have countries, as if they're saying nothing. But Iran and Yemen by actions. Now, will it happen? There are likelihoods, there are indications. The United States doesn't move about its military like that for no reason. Of course, whether it will be successful or not, that's a completely different debate. The level of strike, is it going to be a strike intended to lead to a continuous war? That's these things are a completely different story, because the United States can still have a couple of strikes, but talking about like a ground invasion or occupation or whatever, we saw what they did in Afghanistan, something that completely shook the establishment in the United States. It rocked the whole establishment. It made many people who were in the army lose faith. They were fooled like that, treated as fools, sent as cannon fodder for wars that they had nothing to do with, for the sake of greedy people on top, using them, then sending them back to commit suicide every single day. It's more difficult for them now, especially with the sentiment now with the American-Israeli genocide in Gaza. It's going to be difficult, but they can carry out strikes. However, we don't know the level of response that's going to come from Iran, by the way, after these strikes. They already have a pending response against Israel. If they're attacked, to them, that might be like an excuse to let all hell break loose. And the threat is real. The threat is real. It's not going away, and it's not looking like it's going away. I think both the United States and Israel are behaving in a completely irrational way, and I do not think that they're viewing this with a very clear-headed way, or in a strategic vision even. Like Israel's campaign, complete barbarism. The United States strikes in Yemen. What do you think you're going to stop these people? Who are you, insane? Are you out of your mind? But of course, Trump is going ahead with that. And Iran is saying, we're here. We believe that Israel is going to be eliminated. And Yemen are coordinating with them. More tensions now as well in other parts too. And more Muslim organizations, one of the leading Muslim organizations now called for armed resistance outright against Israel, official kind of fatwa. And it looks like things are going to escalate from here, by the way. No talk about de-escalation or anything as such, at least so long as Benjamin Netanyahu's there. And from an Israeli perspective, he might still be there. The man managed to go ahead with whatever he wanted for a very long time. The Israelis who resist him probably know that if they try and take him, the only way would be with violence. And if it reaches the state of violence, then that's an even bigger risk on the state of Israel as a whole. So that's why they probably are not going ahead with it yet. Will it reach a stage where they'll say that's enough? Because I mean, from an Israeli perspective, if you look at it, the state already betrayed everything when it comes to the average Israeli person. They neglected them on the 7th of October. Many notions and statements and evidence coming that they had prior knowledge. The prisoners of war, they killed them. They killed their own civilians on the 7th of October, massacred the living daylight out of them. And now they're also putting them at risk again, proving that they had no intention of releasing them altogether. They want to kill all of them and get rid of them in the Hannibal Directive. So he's still there. He's still there. But the risk is there against him inside of Israel. And that risk is not de-escalating because he's not giving any reasons for people to de-escalate, which leads us to the following and final thing that I wanted to share with you in this video. The Israeli foreign minister, Gideon Sa'ar, guess what he's saying? This man is saying that Israel wants to normalize relations with Lebanon. Both countries have begun negotiating on the Israeli-Lebanese border and the release of the Lebanese prisoners, but stress that the current negotiations are not part of that normalization. But Sa'ar is saying, yeah, we want to normalize relations with them. Well, how nice and cute of the genocidal foreign minister to offer. How cute is that? I'll bomb you and kill your people and destroy your towns, and I want to normalize relations with you. This statement, if we just take that statement, it shows you the level of delusion, psychopathy, arrogance of these people. These are not normal people who we're dealing with here. Israel and its backers, by the way, they are not normal people. They are completely delusional and so arrogant, it's unbelievable. They think that they can go and kill people left, right, and center and destroy whole cities and towns. And in Lebanon, if we're just talking about Lebanon now, 6,000 martyrs and more than 1 million displaced. Ceasefire, they continuously kill people to target assassinations, and they're occupying parts of Lebanon, and they even have intentions to occupy parts of South Lebanon. They now started to consider biblical somehow, you know, an expansion of this fairy tale that they created in Palestine. Fake people with a pseudo history, pseudo narrative, coming and extending this fairy tale to other countries too, with their greater Israel state, now saying that they want to have peace with Lebanon. I mean, there might be one or two delusional people in Lebanon who would entertain that. But really, do you think the Lebanese people, do you think there's a consensus with anyone in the region to have any peace in this? And your own people are now seeing Zionism as the biggest curse now. The people inside of Israel saying, that's it, the idea of a Jewish state and this whole Zionism thing is dead, long gone, that's it. Do you think that other people will have any sort of faith and belief in you? What planet are they living on? But this is also, and please understand this very well, this is also part of their psychological warfare campaign. You know, they brutalize people, try and occupy here and there to show strength. They want to deviate from the internal breakdown that they're facing from within. The lack of faith, the lack of trust, the infighting, the brink of civil war, the top people and the top figures of the establishment in Israel calling it an end of day scenario now for Israel, with even worse projections for the future. Yet still, some people, like the Israeli foreign minister, they have the audacity to say that they want to normalize relations with Lebanon when their normalized relations already with other countries too are at the brink of collapse. And these were the main things that I wanted to share with you in this video. I hope I shed some light as to what's happening, and I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Salam.